Your thought is seed. The seed contains the complete actuality of what will appear. Thinking is not the origin of the seed. Thinking is the activity that unfolds what has already been placed within the mind. This is the 7-Minute Daily Focus, day 80 of 365. Today's focus, the law of thinking, the germination of thought. Thinking thinks on thoughts. Your thought stands behind. Effect stands in front. Your thinking stands between. Your mind is metaphysical ground. Your thought is seed. The seed contains the complete actuality of what will appear. Your thinking is germination. Thinking is not the origin of the seed. Thinking is the activity that unfolds what has already been placed within the mind. This is where many become confused. They believe that thinking creates the seed. They believe that thinking produces reality. They believe that by thinking harder, longer, or more intensely, they are bringing something into existence. But thinking does not create. Thinking operates on what is already present. Thinking moves upon thought. And this distinction must be understood clearly, because if you misunderstand thinking, you will begin to use effort where alignment is required. You will attempt to force outcomes, instead of allowing the natural unfolding of what is already complete. Thinking is not the source. Thinking is the process. Thinking is the movement between the unseen and the seen. It is the bridge through which the invisible becomes visible. It is not creative in itself, but it is essential to physical expression. The process of thinking is continuous. It is not something you switch on and off. It is not something that begins only when you are aware of it. Thinking is always thinking, but it can operate in two distinct ways. Thinking can be active or thinking can be passive. To think active is to think behind. To think passive is to think in front. Active thinking moves through the first sense. It aligns with what stands behind, the seed, the origin, the metaphysical reality. Passive thinking moves through the five senses. It reacts to what appears in front, conditions, circumstances, and visible effects. Active thinking sustains the seed. Passive thinking reacts to the expression, and whichever mode you occupy determines whether thinking preserves order or disrupts it. Alignment is not effort. Alignment is position. To be aligned is to have thinking resting on thought, not reacting to effect. To be misaligned is to have thinking reacting to effect, not resting on thought. Active thinking is alignment. Passive thinking is misalignment. Alignment keeps thinking in its rightful place between thought and effect, so that the process of germination can continue without interruption. The question is not whether you are thinking. The question is, what is your thinking moving upon? Because thinking will take the shape of the thought it rests upon. If the thought is unstable, thinking becomes scattered. If the thought is divided, thinking becomes inconsistent. If the thought is aligned, thinking becomes orderly. Thinking follows the nature of the seed. Thinking does not override the seed, it expresses the seed. And this is why the foundation must be correct. If the foundation is unclear, thinking will attempt to compensate. But compensation is not alignment. Alignment begins at the level of thought, but alignment is maintained at the level of thinking. You may select the correct thought, but if thinking shifts into reaction, alignment is broken at the level of process. Therefore, alignment is both the selection of the correct thought and the steadiness of thinking upon it. Your first sense is the perceiver of the metaphysical world, the world behind. Your five senses are the perceivers of the physical world, the world in front. If you rely on your five senses, you will begin to think based on what appears. Your thinking will react to conditions. It will respond to circumstances. It will attempt to adjust to what is seen in front. And in doing so, thinking loses its order, because thinking is no longer moving upon the seed, it is reacting to the effect. This reverses the order of reality. The correct order is always thought behind, thinking between, effect in front, When thinking reacts to effect, it steps out of its rightful position, and this produces instability. But when thinking remains aligned with thought, it continues the process of germination, quietly, consistently, by law. This quiet consistency is often overlooked because the physical world celebrates visible action, but true development is internal first. The most powerful movement is not seen immediately. It occurs within the ground of the mind. Pause for a moment. Observe your current thinking. Is it steady or is it reacting? Is your thinking moving from what you recognize as real or from what appears in front of you? Notice how quickly thinking can shift when attention moves, and notice how stability returns when thinking is brought back to the seed. Remain with one thought. Allow thinking to move upon it without interruption. This is where depth is formed. This is where continuity is established. Your mind holds what you allow your attention to be on. What you repeatedly hold becomes your state. Your state determines your environment. Do not react to what appears in front. Remain with what stands behind. Thinking must be protected by attention, because attention determines what thinking continues to move upon. If attention shifts, thinking follows. If attention stabilizes, thinking stabilizes. Attention is the guardian of the process. Without attention, thinking becomes vulnerable to interruption. With attention, thinking remains anchored. Authority is not force. Authority is the recognition of origin, expressed through selection. You are not controlling thinking by force. You are selecting the thought that thinking will move upon, and through that selection, you establish the direction of the process. This is responsibility, not forcing the process, but aligning the foundation, because once the thought is established, thinking will follow it naturally, continuously, by law. Consistency is not created through effort. It is sustained through alignment. Your thought unfolds, your state stabilizes, your environment appears in front. By order, origin governs what appears. Thinking does not determine the outcome. Thinking participates in the unfolding. And when aligned, the unfolding is uninterrupted. There is no need to rush the process. There is no need to interfere with it. The law is already complete. Remember the order. Thinking thinks on thoughts. Your thought stands behind. Effect stands in front. Your thinking stands between. Metaphysical actuality is constant present reality. Affirmation for day 80. My thinking remains aligned with the seed. I do not react to appearance. I allow the process to unfold. I remain steady within origin, by order and by the law of thinking.